want you to take a second and like really rethink everything you thought you knew about ancient mythology.
Oh, completely clear the slate.
Seriously, just wipe it blank. Because when we hear about, the Sumerian flood hero surviving the apocalypse or Mary Magdalene at the center of this huge spiritual revolution, we're totally trained to think of these as completely separate stories.
Right, like they're just these isolated fairy tales.
Exactly. Fairy tales, religious parables, or just, historical accounts separated by thousands of years in completely different cultures. But what if they aren't separate at all?
That is the big question.
What if, instead of being these scattered myths, they are actually fragments of a unified, ancient, technological logos, like a literal linguistic software code meant to preserve the very essence of humanity?
It's a massive paradigm shift, honestly. We are moving entirely away from looking at these narratives as just primitive storytelling.
Right.
Instead, the sources we're examining today, they basically ask us to view them as this incredibly advanced encoded transmission.
Which is wild.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what we're exploring in today's deep dive. We have this genuinely fascinating stack of sources in front of us today.
Some really dense material.
Yeah, we're looking at a researcher's personal notes, drafts for a highly esoteric book trilogy, and some incredibly detailed etymological breakdowns. And our mission for today is to explore a really specific claim made in these texts.
The cipher.
Yes, that an Armenian linguistic cipher, which refers to the Armenian language as the lazu, or logos, actually unlocks this hidden underlying geometry.
A geometry that connects like Sumerian, Greek, Egyptian, and Phoenician myths into one cohesive living system.
It's just mind-blowing. And at the heart of this cipher is the concept of the anma.
Right, the anma. So in Armenian, the prefix am means without, and ma means death.
Without death.
Exactly. So anma translates to immortal or deathless. But the sources we're looking at, they suggest that this anma isn't just a poetic idea of someone living forever. It is an immortal code.
Like a literal frequency.
A literal linguistic and genetic frequency that was carefully preserved and passed down. The idea here is that language isn't just, a way to describe the world. It is the underlying physics of the world.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because if there is a deathless code, this anma, we really need to understand how it survived the destruction of the old world. Before we can even talk about the source of all creation, we have to look at the actual structure that made it through the flood.
Right. We have to start with the survivor. And to do that, we look at the Akkadian and Sumerian flood hero.
The guy with the boat.
Yeah, the boat guy. You might know him as Zusudra or Atrahasis, which means he who saw life. But in the Epic of Gilgamesh, he is famously known as Utnapishtim.
Right.
Historically, he's the guy who built the ark to survive the Great Deluge.
But the author of our source material applies this Armenian cipher to his name, and the translation completely changes how we view him. Now, I have to play devil's advocate here right out of the gate because
Please do.
It's very easy to take any ancient name, chop it up into syllables, and find words in another language that sound vaguely similar, right?
Oh, totally. Pareidolia for language.
Exactly. So how do these sources argue this isn't just a massive linguistic coincidence?
It's a really crucial question. The author argues it isn't coincidence because the translation yields this mathematically and structurally consistent result that aligns perfectly with the underlying geometry of the myth itself.
Okay.
It's not just a random sentence. It's literally a structural equation. So if we break down Utnapishtim using the Armenian key, we get 3 parts.
Walk me through it.
First is UTN, which represents the number 8, or the 8th. Then Bay SHD from the Armenian Bashtil, which means to adore or to worship.
UTNBSHD. Okay.
And finally, EM, which means I am. Put it all together, and Utnapishtim translates to the 8 who are worshipped, or I am the worship of the 8.
I am the worship of the 8.
Yeah.
Which, that just blew my mind when I read it. Because it completely shifts him from being a historical guy on a wooden boat to being a mathematical geometric absolute.
He becomes the structure itself.
Right. But walk me through the geometry of this. Like, why is the number 8 so critical here?
Well, let's visualize the geometry. In ancient esoteric systems, the number 7 represents a closed system.
Like a sealed environment.
Think of a dome or the vault of heaven. To define a perfect physical space, like a room, you need a center point where you stand, the 4 cardinal directions around you, a zenith directly above, and a nadir directly below.
So that's 7 points.
That's 7 points. It represents the old world. It's complete, it's functional, but it is entirely contained.
It's sealed, like a snow globe.
Exactly like a snow globe. But the number 8, the UTN, is the breakthrough. It adds the intercardinal points.
Oh, wow.
It represents infinity, movement, permeation. 8 is the transcendence of that closed dome.
Okay, I see.
So Utnapishtim isn't just a survivor of the flood. He represents the 8 directions of space. He is the literal blueprint of the new world.
That structural consistency you mentioned earlier, this actually reminds me of the Phoenician myth we have in the notes from Sanchuniathon.
Oh yes, the Kabiri.
Right. The deity Siddiq, who is the righteous, fathered 7 sons known as the Kabiri. But then there's an 8th son.
The righteous 8th, sometimes associated with Eshman. And when we run that through the Armenian bridge, we find the word Sadiq or Zaitik.
Zatik.
Yeah. In modern usage, that word relates to Easter, the resurrection. But its foundational ancient root means to separate or to be distinct.
To separate from the 7.
Precisely. The 8th is the one who is separated from the 7. The 8th breaks out of the snow globe to become the bridge to the new world. He carries the blueprints across the flood.
Wow. So the linguistic translation matches the mathematical function of the myth perfectly.
It really does.
I want to push back on the traditional visualization of this whole flood narrative, though.
Okay.
Because when we hear ark and blueprints, we naturally picture, like, a guy with a rolled-up piece of parchment standing on a wooden boat full of giraffes and elephants, you know?
We constantly project our modern, really literal understanding onto these ancient, multidimensional concepts.
Exactly. So what if, based on this cipher, Utnapishtim is holding all the information of the old world almost like a backup drive?
Yes, but importantly, not external to him. The sources suggest he is the drive.
Oh, I see. Like a human ZIP file.
A human ZIP file, yes.
He didn't just carry the blueprints of the old world in his pocket. His very being, his genetic and linguistic makeup, was the geometric archive of the 8. He is the compressed data of humanity waiting to be unzipped in the new world.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, your analogy is spot on. If Utnapishtim is the hard drive, the compressed geometric 8, we must ask what container holds this massive structure.
All right, where does it go?
You can't just have a compressed file floating in nothingness. It needs an environment. It needs a womb.
Which brings us to the source code, the 9.
Precisely. You can't have the structure without the environment. This leads us directly to the Sumerian primordial mother goddess, Namu, or Nama.
The mother of everything.
Yes, she is the self-procreating womb of the octode, the 8 who gave birth to heaven and earth.
And when we run her name through the Armenian bridge...
The Armenian word nam translates to moisture or liquid.
Moisture, okay.
Namu represents the 0, or the 9. She is the heavenly waters. In the sources, she is described as the self-procreating sea, the primordial ooze from which the throne of kingship eventually emerges.
Just to make sure we don't lose anyone here, when the sources say she is non-dual, what does that actually mean in this specific context?
Non-dual basically means there is no separation yet.
No boundaries.
Right. There is no up or down, no light or dark, no you or me. It is the absolute infinite source before the one, the monad, even begins to divide into pieces. It's pure, unformatted potential.
Got it.
That's why the metaphor of water, or moisture, is used. Water takes the shape of whatever contains it. It is completely fluid.
So Utnapishtim, the compressed structure of the 8, is essentially floating upon Namu, the watery, non-dual 9.
Yes. The 8 is held within the 9, and this redefines the whole ancient concept of kingship from heaven.
How so?
The sources note that kingship was never meant to be just a political crown, you know, a piece of metal you wear on your head to boss people around. True kingship is a biological and spiritual capacity.
Oh, wait.
It is the ability to hold the 8, the geometric structure of reality, safely within the 9, the primordial spirit, the waters.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Because if we stick with our tech analogy.
And I love the tech analogy.
Right. If Utnapishtim is the hardware, the geometric 8, then Namu is the raw electricity. She is the operating system, the 9.
Exactly.
Without that primordial ooze, the hardware is just dead metal. It's a computer without a power source. The throne, the structure, has no power without the raw liquid voltage of Namu.
It's a perfect way to visualize it. The structure absolutely needs the resonance. The hardware needs the current to actually boot up and run the anma code.
But, I mean, a pure signal, raw electricity,
Yeah.
that's incredibly dangerous. If you grab a raw live wire, It kills you. It burns you out completely.
It incinerates you, yeah.
So how does this code, this intense combination of the 8 and the 9, actually manifest in the human realm?
Yeah.
How do they insulate this divine voltage so human beings could actually interact with it and pass it down without short-circuiting?
To understand that, the source material points us toward two vastly different feminine archetypes from antiquity, the Sumerian goddess Inanna and Mary Magdalene.
The Magdalene part of these notes is what tripped me up the most at
It's
first.
a huge leap for sure.
Because we are traditionally taught that Magdalene just means she was from the town of Magdala.
Right, a geographic identifier.
But the author runs her name through this Armenian root system, and it yields something entirely different, doesn't it?
It does. When the author applies the key to Magdalene, it breaks down into three Armenian components, Meg, Dalel, and INN.
Okay, let's break those down.
Meg means the one, the monad, the first becoming.
And a monad is essentially that very first spark, right? The ultimate one stepping out of the non-dual waters.
Exactly. Then we have DL, which means to give, to bestow, or to transmit. Interestingly, Del also translates to sister-in-law.
Sister-in-law, that's really specific.
It is. It marks her esoteric role as the legal divine partner to the bloodline. She ensures the immortal code is bestowed properly upon the world.
Oh.
And finally, we have Ein, which represents the 9, or I am.
Meg, Diel, I-N. 1 gives 9.
Yes. Put it all together, and Magdalene translates to the monad's self-transmission into being, or the 1 gives the 9 gives the 1.
That is profound. And regarding her title as the tower, because the Hebrew word Migdal means tower, right?
Right, Migdal is tower. But the author argues that this is not a physical building made of stone. Magdalene is the tower.
She's the conduit.
Exactly. She is a vertical conduit connecting heaven and earth. In this genesis of sound, she is the resonance.
Oh, I see.
If Utnapishtim is the geometric archive, the 8 directions, Magdalene is the vibrational container that safely holds those primordial waters of Namu. Even the name Mary itself connects to the sea, the mare. She is the container of the 9th sphere.
Now contrast that profound selfless preservation with the Sumerian goddess Inana. Because that contrast is what makes this whole theory click into place for me.
The contrast is incredibly stark. Inanna is a goddess of love, war, and political power.
Very active, very ambitious.
Very. In her myths, she famously gets the god Enki drunk so she can steal the ME. And these ME are the divine decrees or blueprints of civilization.
Right.
Furthermore, Inanna chops down the sacred hulupu tree, which represents living, fluid, cosmic potential, just to build herself a physical throne and a bed.
She sacrifices the long-term living potential of the tree to solidify her own immediate physical control.
Exactly. In the Armenian Lazu, Inanna operates on the frequency of Ishkan, which means prince, ruler, or will. It's the frequency of ambition and acquisition.
Whereas Magdalene.
Magdalene, on the other hand, operates on the frequency of Pahapan, meaning protector, guardian, or grace. The sources point out that Magdalene held the orb, the monad, the pure potential, even when all the physical structures around her were literally being destroyed.
If you're listening to this and wondering why a Sumerian goddess chopping down a tree matters to your life today, I mean, think about how often we do exactly this.
Oh, constantly.
How often do we sacrifice pure potential or grace just to build our own little physical thrones of control?
It's a deeply human dilemma, acquisition versus preservation.
Okay, let me make sure I'm tracking the mechanism here. It sounds like Inanna essentially downloaded the divine software, like she stole the ME, but in doing so, she totally disconnected from the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
She lost the primordial ooze of Namu because she was way too focused on building a physical empire. But Magdalene didn't need to build a physical throne because she preserved the pure signal. She stayed connected to the network. Is that right?
What's fascinating here is that is the exact core tension the author is highlighting. Inanna took the structural power, the throne. Magdalene held the resonant power, the orb.
Wow.
True kingship from heaven is only functional when you have both. The structure of the 8 vibrating with the pure, uninterrupted signal of the 9.
Which brings up a massive logistical problem, a biological problem, really.
The insulation problem.
Exactly. If Magdalene preserved this pure signal, this blinding ooze, what physical medium actually allows a human being to conduct that intense divine frequency without completely burning out?
That leads us directly to the concept of the woven bloodline. And to really understand it, we have to revisit those Sumerian EE that Inanna stole.
The divine decrees.
Correct. Traditional archaeology defines the ME as laws or decrees of civilization. But The author's linguistic key reveals something far more structural.
Using the Armenian root.
Yes. Using the Armenian root mej, which means in or between, the emi are revealed to be liminal boundaries. They are the saman, the limits.
Wait, I'm slightly lost. When you say liminal boundaries, you mean the space between things. Walk me through exactly what that means practically.
Think of them as vibrational frequencies or harmonics. They represent the line or no line between opposites.
Okay.
The ME are the intermediaries, the filters that allow the infinite burning power of Namu to interact safely with the finite physical world. And this concept of the intermediary is deeply tied to the physical material of wool.
Wool, like literally from a sheep.
Yes, literally wool. Stay with me here because we have to look at the physical properties of wool before we look at the metaphor. Wool is a profound insulator.
Right, it keeps you warm.
But more importantly, wool holds a powerful static electrical charge.
Oh, right, like when you rub a wool sock on a carpet and shock someone?
Exactly like that. Ancient esoteric traditions observed these physical properties and used them as metaphors for spiritual technologies. Because wool holds a charge and insulates, it was viewed as a spiritual filter, a biological conductor.
That's brilliant.
The sources bring in the Greek myth of Zephyrus, the god of the west wind, the gentle breath of spring. Zephyrus is a rival for the affection of a youth named Hyacinthus. When Hyacinthus is tragically killed, his blood transforms into the hyacinth flower.
A classic myth of resurrection and eternal life.
Yes, but the key is in the botanical taxonomy. The specific taxonomic variation is Hyacinthus linnaeus. The Latin word lana means wool or fleece.
Oh, wow.
By linking the hyacinth, the blood of the youth, to the lana, the woolly nature, the ancient authors are describing a woven bloodline.
Okay, hold on. You're telling me the myth of the golden fleece wasn't just about some magical sheepskin, but an ancient metaphor for a biological network.
Precisely. In ancient alchemy, the golden fleece was the secret of turning the ooze into gold, meaning transforming raw primordial power into immortal spirit.
It's the filter.
It acts like a sacred fleece. It steps down the blinding voltage of the heavenly waters so it can be safely integrated into human society. The sources even draw a parallel to the traditional Armenian carpet, the gorg.
Walk me through that. How does a carpet not relate to a divine decree?
Think of the weaving process. Every single knot in that woven carpet is a boundary, a structural point. It's like a physical decree, a piece of the anma code tied into physical reality.
That makes so much sense.
The woven carpet is a representation of how the universe is structurally knit together, holding the static charge of the divine within its patterns.
So what does this all mean? If we go back to our tech analogies, the lana, this woven wool, is essentially an ancient fiber optic cable.
That's a brilliant way to conceptualize it, actually. A fiber optic cable doesn't generate light. It guides it, bounces it, and protects it so the information isn't lost.
Right. It's a woven physical material designed specifically to transmit pure light and information safely. It carries the anma, the immortal code, across generations without losing the integrity of the signal.
It's incredible.
The kingship from heaven isn't a guy sitting on a chair issuing laws. It's a genetic and linguistic fiber optic network passing a cosmic frequency down through time.
This raises an important question, though. If this divine decree, this genesis of sound, is a frequency passed through this fiber optic woven bloodline, who is listening to the signal today, where is that frequency resonating right now?
That is heavy. We have covered a massive amount of ground today, and I think it fundamentally changes how we interact with these ancient texts.
Absolutely.
We started with Utnapishtim, the geometric hard drive of the 8, floating on Namu, the primordial watery operating system of the 9.
We saw how this code was fragmented by the physical ambition of Inana, who basically lost the signal to build a throne, but it was perfectly preserved by Magdalene, who acted as the vibrational container of the orb, the Tower of the 9.
And finally, we explored how this anma code is safely transmitted through the lana, the woven, woolly, fiber optic frequency of the divine decrees, stepping down the voltage so humanity can actually interact with it.
Beautifully summarized.
And for you listening, this changes everything. Because this deep dive suggests that our ancestors were not just sitting around campfires telling fairy tales about floods and jealous gods. They were passing down a highly advanced quantum logos. Language itself is an ancient technology. Every word, every phonetic root is a piece of living software.
Which brings us to a really remarkable detail from the author's own process. In the notes, it's revealed that the author of this esoteric trilogy deliberately left the final chapters of their manuscript unwritten.
I saw that in the margins. It was such a striking choice.
The authors stated that the ending will write themselves over the next 5,000 years.
Wow.
By refusing to seal the story, by refusing to put a definitive cap on it, the author is refusing to build a static throne like Inana. They're leaving it in the namu, the fluid primordial potential. They are allowing the 8 to remain suspended in the 9.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you to chew on as you go about your day. If the genesis of sound is still vibrating, and language is a living, breathing frequency, then the immortal code is not locked away in a museum behind glass.
No, it's active.
It isn't buried under the sands of Mesopotamia.
Yeah.
You are interacting with that frequency right now simply by thinking about it. Every time you speak, every time you parse meaning, you are participating in that static charge. You are part of the Lizu.
The living logos.
So as the next 5,000 years unfold, what will your frequency add to the unwritten chapters of the human story? Will you be the one to recognize that unified linguistic software code that's been hiding in plain sight all along?